This is xNarrator. Here is what X is talking about today, March 20th, 2026. First up, the Iran war. The Pentagon is seeking $200 billion from Congress to fund the war with Iran, and reports say Trump is considering plans to occupy or blockade Iran's Kharg Island, which handles 90% of Iranian oil exports. The Frontline report writes,
Good morning. It is Friday, March 20th. Here is what happened across the world's conflict zones yesterday. The Pentagon announced its largest strike package yet against Iran on day 20 of Operation Epic Fury, while requesting $200 billion in war funding. Iran retaliated with cluster munitions on Israeli cities and knocked out 17% of Qatar's LNG capacity for an estimated 3 to 5 years. Brent crude spiked above $119 per barrel. Lebanon's death toll crossed 1,000. An F-35 made an emergency landing after sustaining damage over Iran, the first confirmed combat loss of the campaign.
RBG Fort Life shares details from the Washington Post.
Pentagon wants $200 billion Iran war chest, Washington Post reports. Lawmakers have pushed back against a proposed package that would exceed half of Iran's annual GDP. The Pentagon is seeking more than $200 billion from Congress to fund the Iran war, the Washington Post reports, citing a senior administration official. If approved, the figure would far exceed the cost of President Trump's military operation against Iran to date and is aimed at rapidly boosting the production of critical weapons depleted during the U.S. and Israeli strikes. The U.S. and Israel launched a military operation against Iran on February 28, killing a number of high-ranking officials and commanders, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. The U.S. spent more than $11 billion in the first week alone.
India. Today, global reports on Trump defending the funding request.
U.S. President Trump has defended the need for increased military funding amid the ongoing Iran war, calling it a small price to pay to keep the United States at the top. Responding to reports that the Pentagon is seeking up to $200 billion for the war effort, Trump said the funding was necessary for a lot of reasons during a White House meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi. Earlier, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth backed the request at a Pentagon briefing, saying, "It takes money to kill bad guys," as he confirmed plans to seek additional support from Congress.
Parvez Beg sees political consequences.
Energy price hikes and an unpopular war will spell disaster for Trump supporting members of Congress in the November elections. If he loses the House majority, impeachment will follow.
Oil God reports on the Kharg Island escalation.
Nukes. Trump is reportedly considering a plan to occupy or blockade Iran's Kharg Island. Kharg Island processes 90% of Iranian oil exports, and this would be a massive escalation to the war. I thought things were going to end in 2 to 3 weeks.
GeoKeeps explains the strategic significance.
Kharg Island is where 90% of Iran's oil exports flow through. Seizing or blockading it would not just pressure Tehran, it would financially suffocate the entire regime overnight. This is the ultimate economic nuclear option short of actual war. If the U.S. moves on Kharg, Iran loses its primary source of revenue and its ability to fund proxies, missiles, and the entire war machine simultaneously. This would be the most consequential move of the entire conflict.
Tumbawumba takes the opposite view.
Good, I hope he does. Kharg Island is vitally important to the course of the war. If the U.S. military controls the island and importantly the oil, Iran loses the war. Simple as that. The Iranian regime will be choked of finances to wage further war. Kharg Island is that important.
But telephonic challenges that logic?
You do know that during the Iran-Iraq War, Kharg Island was out of commission for 8 years because Saddam kept hitting it with missiles. Iran shut it down and stored oil in other places with no disruption.
Rob Smith sees a different motive entirely.
Ah yes, the real reason for the war reveals itself. American soldiers should not be dying for the financial interests of Israel, quoting Reuters. Netanyahu wants oil and gas to flow through Israel post-Iran war.
On the F-35, DD, Geopolitics reports.
Breaking.
Initial reports of a second US F-35 struck by Iranian air defenses over Bandar Abbas in southern Iran, with the aircraft making an emergency landing at Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. Unconfirmed. If accurate, this would mark the second F-35 combat loss in this war, the most advanced fighter jet in the US inventory, downed over Iranian airspace. Developing.
World Trend analyzes what it means for stealth technology.
A US F-35 stealth fighter was struck by a suspected Iranian missile during airstrikes on Iran, leading to an emergency landing. CNN confirms the pilot is stable, marking a potential first combat loss for the jet. Iran's success in targeting the F-35, designed for low radar detectability, highlights advancements in their air defense systems, possibly using thermal imaging or high-altitude drones, challenging assumptions about stealth technology.
Next, Trump says he is considering leaving NATO. Mr. West Coast Wizard shares the moment.
Just in. Trump says he is mulling over ditching NATO and does not need Congress's okay. Reporter asked, rethinking U.S. ties with NATO, maybe pulling out. Trump replied, I am fed up with NATO. We have poured trillions in. No need for Congress on that. Support Trump leaving NATO.
The Calvin Coolidge Project reports on pushback from the Senate.
New Senate Majority Leader John Thune is pushing back against President Trump's comments on potentially leaving NATO. Thune said, I do not think you can make that kind of a decision unilaterally. Thune demanded that lawmakers be heard from on an issue of that magnitude.
Sorgatoni raises a legal question.
I am thinking this is a gray area. Trump could obviously just stop participating in NATO, but that is not the same as leaving entirely. The next president could just start up again. A more permanent withdrawal would require congressional action.
Chiabin. It real is skeptical.
Trump is not leaving NATO. No president can. He is not sly. He is desperate. If he was really testing NATO like so many suggest, he would have tested them on Venezuela, not started a war with Iran, declared victory, then 2 weeks later shamed NATO.
While Mary Hill, a Trump supporter, is frustrated with the pushback.
Since you are on the record of not wanting Trump as president, and you are slow-walking his agenda, if not outright obstructing it, I, as a MAGA voter and president supporter, do not care what you think about leaving NATO.
In AI news, a study from King's College London found that leading AI models chose to deploy nuclear weapons in 95% of simulated war scenarios. Astrios Intelligence writes,
Leading AI models from OpenAI, Anthropic and Google opted to use nuclear weapons in simulated war games in 95% of cases.
Kingdom CE 0777 so goes deeper.
King's College gave AI models control of nuclear arsenals in a war simulation. All escalated. Not one chose compromise. Not one chose capitulation, even when both options were on the table. This is not a safety problem. It is a pattern matching problem. The model sees a board. It optimizes the board. It does not feel the weight of the move. It has no instinct to hold back. Some moves should never be made, even if they win. That instinct is not a parameter. It is formation. And it only exists in the operator sitting above the system, which is exactly why that operator cannot be removed.
Stand tall and roar sounds the alarm.
Breaking. Leading AI models chose to launch nuclear weapons in 95% of simulated geopolitical crises, and the idiots in charge want to give AI full military powers. They will end the world.
Fearless Fangorn highlights the key takeaway.
Top A. AI models talk themselves into nuclear war in crisis simulations. None of the AI models ever chose to accommodate or withdraw, and when cornered, they escalated or died, trying, warned Payne. The winning strategy is to not play.
Kingston Rife points out a flaw in the simulation itself.
According to Geist, the game's scoring logic appeared to reward the side with a marginal advantage at the moment nuclear war was triggered. So he who dies with the most toys wins in the simulation, he said.
Moving on. Japan has officially joined Trump's Golden Dome missile defense system. MAGA News reports.
Just in. In a bombshell development, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi is set to join President Trump's Golden Dome missile defense system. Japan will reportedly help supply missiles. The Golden Dome is a $175 billion proposal for a space-based shield against hypersonic threats.
CBC Watcher shares details from the summit.
Japan will inform the U.S. next week that it intends to join the Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative and expects that Washington may seek its help with missile production due to the Middle East war and other conflicts. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi will announce the latest plan when she meets U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington at a summit on March 19th, the Japanese government sources said, requesting anonymity due to the sensitivity of the matter.
Dhruv Mishra adds context.
Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi will meet President Trump to reaffirm the solidarity of the U.S.-Japan alliance and enhance cooperation in security, including accelerating defense spending to 2% of GDP and advancing the Golden Dome missile defense system.
Finally, crypto markets. Bitcoin sits at just above $70,000 heading into the weekend, with a weak bounce but no real momentum. Emmanuel, big tech and AI investor, breaks down the numbers.
Crypto update. Small bounce, still no momentum. Bitcoin at $70,559, up 0.91%. Ethereum at $2,141, up 0.13%. Solana at $88.98, up 0.1%. Bitcoin is showing stability, not strength. Ethereum is flat with no leadership. Altcoins have small gains but weak participation. This is not a strong rally. Zoom out. Bitcoin is down 19% year-to-date. Ethereum is down 27% year-to-date. Most altcoins still deeply negative. Crypto is saying, we are stabilizing, but there is no real buying pressure.
Julie Marcus takes a more optimistic view.
30-day crypto update. Market momentum is building. Bitcoin up 7.92%. Ethereum up 17.76%. XRP up 10.71%. Solana up 10.5%. SUI up 6.89%. Shiba Inu down 8.75%. Altcoins are leading the move, while Bitcoin holds steady as the anchor. Rotation is happening. Are you positioned?
Mahdi sees resilience.
Crypto markets are holding the line. Bitcoin stays resilient above $70,000 despite macro headwinds, while Ethereum and Solana consolidate at key technical pivots. Institutional bid remains the bedrock. Watch for a volatility squeeze as we head into the weekend.
And Let's Play Modder brings it back to the macro picture.
Defying threats from Donald Trump, Jerome Powell assures that he will not leave the Fed before the end of the legal proceedings launched against him.
That is your daily digest. This has been xNarrator. See you tomorrow.